really excited for today. So it's Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month, where normally I have a chat and we meet face to face. I'm live now on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And this session, you'll find it afterwards on the podcast as well. And you can always watch it again on replay on YouTube. If you're here with us today on LinkedIn or YouTube, feel free to put your comments and chats in, and just make sure to share it and answer any questions. So this session or this episode is really, it means a lot to me. So today's, I'd say, guest definitely is Jeff Thomson. I've known Jeff for years. I knew him since I came out from uni, and he played such a pivotal moment in my career. He was always there supporting, and I've worked with him very closely on the Institute of Management Board of Directors. Jeff is the former CEO of the Institute of Management of Accountants in the US. He was there for years, and I'll give him some space to explain even more what he's done there, because I think it would be a learning for people looking at their careers, and he played such a great role there. He supported a lot of volunteers, a lot of professionals, changed lives of a lot of us. And he's currently a strategic advisor, finance, accounting, and ESG. So feel free to reach to Jeff, who's recently retired and has a lot of knowledge in his head. I'll try to get some of this knowledge out. And I definitely say today's topic as well, like data science, past, present, and future. I'd have to say Jeff was a data scientist before it was a thing, but I'll speak about that later. Jeff, I'm so excited to have you today.
Hey, Fatema, thank you. And hi, everyone. Hey, it's a pleasure and an honor. And as you indicated, we've known each other for quite a while. Your career has really been taken off and been an inspiration to many. Not too many of us who are able to fuse together accounting type work with analytical type work. But the more we can advocate that to advance the profession, the better. As you indicated, I am very recently retired, actually within days of being the president and CEO of the Institute of Management Accountants, based in the US, but with something like 140,000 members across the world, over 100 countries. And actually, Fatema was one of the very few of our senior volunteers who could claim fame by saying that she created not just one local IMA chapter, but two in two different continents. That's part of what being a part of a profession and an association's all about, is unifying people, unifying thought, always learning and growing, always being ready for the next opportunity. And I have to admit, I'm a little biased, not to use a statistical term, but I am a little biased when it comes to the value and the incredible opportunity there is to integrate more data analytics into our profession, to provide greater insight and foresight. As Fatema indicated, I was educated actually as a mathematician statistician, and my very first job at AT&T back in the day was working for essentially a data science group inside of AT&T. And I was also a math teacher, and I remember between AT&T and IMA, my students would be always whining to me that there's no value in mathematics, and I'm not going to ever use it for anything. And I said, you just wait. Every day I'm going to hammer into you the fact that there are specific applications of, whether it's mathematics, calculus, trigonometry, geometry, there's all kinds of rich real world applications of data science in many, if not all, of the professions, including accounting, finance, art, music, literature, you name it. I'll stick to what I know because I can't sing and I can't draw. But as Fatema indicated, or alluded to, our profession consists of professionals who make a difference, not just for their organizations, but for their standing in society, especially in the world of ESG and sustainability. So lots of opportunity for learning and growth for individuals and for the profession at large.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Jeff. I think I always say your experience is really what shapes the career and how it goes. And I think here you kind of really shared a lot about your personal experience, starting from being a teacher to moving to AT&T and to the IMA. You've done such a great, throughout your career, you've done a lot. And I'm quite impressed. um, and as you said, it's also the working I know you're focused mainly on finance and accounting, and as analytics people, I always say it's because in data function, really it's important because that's an important function for us, and it is moving so fast. But before we get into that, let me go back to your data science and statistic background. I bet your students now listening would be like, oh, like we should have listened better to the to our teacher and actually studied mathematics more.
Absolutely.
Look at where we are now with data science. So how do you feel looking at how it changed all of a sudden? Because a data scientist role now is kind of really pivotal. It changes, it supports the organization, it looks into the data, understands, the what is happening with the data, understand the patterns, and even sometimes reach predictions and do all that. But I'll leave that to you. Like, how do you feel about all the change from where it was several years ago before you even joined AT&T to where it is now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, it's one of those things where, as a math science person, kind of finding your way into a meaningful job and career, I actually had been thinking about starting my career teaching, but it didn't quite work out. Sadly, and this is, I think, true across the world, but teachers, either they're not paid what they deserve, or they're overwhelmed with almost like a first line of defense in dealing with kids at 7:20 in the morning. Some come from homes that are not as stable as you'd like, and so today's teacher and yesterday's teacher and the future teacher has some significant responsibilities, and we should always thank and appreciate our teachers, almost like first responders in terms of what they do for the future generation. So I think the the importance early on in dealing with teenagers, because these are teenagers, and as much as we'd like to think that they love data science like we do, so you have to kind of tell a story, right? Storytelling is a big part of data science, data analytics, data visualization. And yeah, you could have the R and the Python, the business objects and the Alteryx and the, Tableau and all the nice software that does multi-dimensional analysis displays. But at the end of the day, it's up to the human to do the storytelling. And in terms of our profession, it very much is what I'd like to call a race for relevance and influence. It's not where you are at the point of time. It's what your kind of like your rate of change, what your first derivative is, right? For basic calculus. And the fact of the matter is the world is moving so quickly. Technology is moving at breakneck speed. Are we able to harness the power and leverage the power of technology? Of course, in the past and still today, it's RPA and blockchain. And as we move forward, it continuously is artificial intelligence and quantum computing. And if our profession is, or if any profession is going to keep up, it's got to build in more competency into its profession. And so analytics shouldn't be something that a finance or accounting major or professional just says, let me go grab this course from IMA, hopefully, but let's grab a course and bolt it on to my education. No, I'm a big advocate for building into college curricula, into online CPE and CPD, into company curricula and training. Build in that analytics, build in methods of forecasting, regression methods, correlation methods, explanatory methods. Be inquisitive, explore the data, mine the data. And, some say to me, well, Jeff, I'm a finance accounting person. I'm not a mathematician. And I'm like, well, you don't have to be a PhD mathematician or econometrician. I've taught business statistics at the college level, and it is learnable for anybody that works hard and pays attention. And, if you're an accountant, you probably have some aptitude for numbers. So, but that analysis aspect and building it in means two things. One, as robotics and RPA continue to eliminate, quite frankly, automate and eliminate jobs, especially that are more transaction oriented, more repeatable, more repetitive. Think book close, think bank reconciliations, think manual journal entries. Look, all those things could be automated. So some jobs and functions will go away. And that's a good thing, actually, for operational efficiency as technology heats up. But secondly, if we have the right skill sets in data science, like built in to our curricula, not bolt on, then we could add even more value. We could aspire to higher value added jobs that, the value per job, the pay per job. I mean, I think Fatema, data scientists, whether it's Indeed or LinkedIn, are still, if not the top sought after job in the top three. And then my final point is, in larger companies and even in smaller companies, sometimes we say, well, I don't have data analytics capability. I'm just going to outsource it. Again, maybe larger companies do this. Certainly AT&T did initially. But I do think that we can't be stressed out by math. I know some of us have had, not such good experience back in the day with our math teachers, and what's the value of this? But it ultimately is going to help increase our relevance and influence because we will then be able to take on higher value added jobs where instead of explaining, two-dimensional actual versus budget, run rates, things like that, we could actually add significant insight and foresight to the organization that could change the trajectory of the company. It could change and transform the user experience. It could change the world, right? We actually make a difference. So, I'm a bit of a passionate advocate. I know, of course, you are too. With all the great work you've done. And it's, it's a bit of a crusade, right? Because at first glance, it's like, why do we have to build data analytics and data visualization and data science into our profession rather than just paying for outside services when we need it? No, wrong answer. So those are my thoughts.
No, I love. I think this is. I know that we usually have those conversations offline, and this is why I wanted to get get those conversations online, so people as well can, it's quite. They can learn as well, not learn, but more like share and listen and see their views and maybe share their comments even with us here. And I love how you kind of really explained a couple of things here. You just shared a bit about how to kind of change careers and get into data science, about the courses, about the things that the Institute of Management Accountants IMA is offering, and about things that even like the mindset of changing a career. And I think you have changed careers because you've moved from data science to finance, and you've taken those kind of transferable skills with you.
Yeah.
And then moved up to a CEO, which is even it's a different skill set. And I've done the same. I've moved from finance to analytics, and so I think this point is really, I loved how you went through it and explained it, but also what you've shared in terms of the importance of data science and the power of looking at the data, understanding it, looking at regression modeling, and kind of really more in depth. So that will take me to a discussion. So I know that you've just released the ESG report. So congratulations on that. That's quite but I just want to maybe we can discuss a bit more about data science and ESG and how can it empower ESG and supports it. But also give it, maybe let's chat a bit about this report. I've read it and I've shared it on my
Yeah,
LinkedIn
thank you.
because I felt like it's brilliant. Thank you for all the efforts and all the rest of the team who supported it. It's really great to see it. But I want to discuss a bit with you a bit more. So how did this come? And the idea you moved to ESG. I know that you're a big advocate for it. And I've seen you speak about it a lot, and even in board meetings and things like that.
Yeah.
So maybe you can share a bit more.
Yeah. No, I'd be glad to. So, so the study that that you're referring to, we just put out on Thursday, March 30th. I've got to get my time right because I was traveling overseas, as you know. And
so Jeff just flew from China.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a bit different time zone to the US, so not the UK. So.
But yeah, no, absolutely. So we, the name of the guidance, it's called Achieving Effective Internal Control Over Sustainability Reporting, Building Trust and Confidence. So, and I'll tie in the analytics. So the storyline is this: ESG, or environmental, social, and governance, is becoming mainstream in business around the world. We also refer to it as a sustainable business management. And the interesting thing about ESG is, again, the E is environmental, the S is social, the G in governance. Really, the early emphasis of regulators and investors is on the E. The impacts on financial statements of climate risk, of weather-related events. So ESG is one of these areas, or the environmental part, your carbon footprint, your transition to cleaner, greener sources of energy, is really a fascinating one because it not only has a business aspect to it, which we'll talk about more with analytics, but it's very political, especially in the US. Sadly, it has obviously significant elements of science, in terms of the rate at which the planet is warming, and things that, although I'm a math statistics person, I don't necessarily understand all of the science, but it's very interesting. There's and as I said earlier, sadly there are elements of politics in there, but there's a business aspect to it, and the business aspect is where our analytical skills, our visualization skills, our optimization, prediction skills, et cetera, come into play. Because, for example, in the various regulations that are coming down on climate reporting, reporting of long-term and short-term risk from climate change on your financial statements, there's a lot of data modeling that has to be done. One thing about ESG data relative to, say, financial reporting data is ESG data is much more qualitative, much more unstructured from a dashboarding and warehousing perspective, much more estimated. I mean, think about it. You're trying to estimate greenhouse gas emissions for your company. Some of the regulations are going to require you to report on greenhouse gas emissions for your partners and your suppliers. You're going to need to do potentially business cases if, for example, you decide that you want to directly contribute to a safer, cleaner society and planet, well, if there's a business case, there's return on investment, there's sunk cost, there's return, there's regression modeling and correlation analysis. All of these things apply whether you're dealing with financial data or quote unquote non-financial ESG or balanced scorecard type of data. The same competencies are critically important. How do you source this data, this more unstructured qualitative data on your carbon emissions or your human talent profile or your innovation capability? How do you source that data from disparate sources in and outside the company? How do you assure the data? How do you cleanse the data, outlier analysis, et cetera? You have to do all that stuff before you take care of the delivery side. Data science is the delivery side, in my view. It's once the data has, you've got this data governance model that governs who owns what, ideally one version of the truth, then a whole process of extraction and architecture, extraction, cleansing, et cetera, before you even get to data delivery. So a mechanical, automated, one-touch data lakes, all these things are part of creating stronger organizations that not only have an impact for their investors, but have an impact on the planet and have an impact on society, which is increasingly what rating agencies, investors, even potential employees, we want to work for organizations who not just achieve profit, but achieve profit with purpose and with an interest in the greater good. And all that requires some really, really strong analytics and modeling.
It does. And it requires a lot of data science as well, because you mentioned here the unstructured data. I was taking notes and, about what you were mentioning. I think the unstructured data, the ability to do the analysis, to look into outliers. A data scientist at this point and data science as a profession, you're creating the future, especially that ESG is. I know we've been speaking about it for years, Jeff, and we've been discussing it. But even I know that last time we were speaking as well, it's the the rules and regulations are not mature enough, whether what's out there or but even in the finance or the reflection in different professions. We're still trying to build it, and I know that you're kind of really a thought leader. You are a thought leader in this area because you're like doing a lot of stuff, supporting different organizations and working with them closely on even like looking at accounting standards that can support ESG, which is brilliant. But I think this is the bit where the future, when we look at the future, data science is playing such an important role. So I love how you explain that. And as you said, yes, we all want to work for organizations that they stand and they want to make sure that the future of ESG is taken into account. So let me move a bit towards your. I think this is the opportunity to kind of learn a bit and share some of your knowledge here. Let's move to your role as a CEO. And I think this is the bit and I'll link it to analytics and I'll tell you how now. I think you've done such a great role in the Institute of Management Accountants. You've really moved it around, turned it around, and it is a global organization. But to be a CEO, that requires a certain skill set, which you can work on it. But I wanted you to share with me, with the listeners here, really the skill sets, how it is like to be a CEO. Because I think by the end of the day, like a lot of the listeners are looking into careers that go up the ladder. If we're speaking about data science, so that person can be a CDO, or if they're doing data science in finance, they might look to being a CFO and then hopefully a CEO at a point. So maybe you can share a bit as well, because I'm quite curious. I can't have you on this in this chat and not ask you this question.
Yeah, no, I'd be glad to. And I think early on, Fatema, you you talked about, the importance of experience. And there's no doubt that multiple experiences, diverse experiences, taking risks and seeking out or being asked to take on experiences or jobs that perhaps you weren't expecting. But it's also how you leverage that experience to the next opportunity. There's been so many stories of people who became CFOs or CEOs who are very, very successful, I don't know, in the airline industry and moved into a different industry vertical or a company with a different culture and unfortunately didn't do well because you just can't copy and paste forward. In other words, if you had 3 incredible experiences and say, you know what, regardless of the industry vertical I'm joining or where this company happens to be in the growth trajectory and maturity curve or whatever the culture is, I'm just going to copy and paste forward because what worked in the past will work in the future. Well, just like you can't build a time series model and let that be your only form of predicting the future, how you adapt to your new environment and say, you know what, I did a bunch of things in telecom or in whatever company. I think I can apply some of that here, but I also need to listen to others and adapt to this current environment. It's all about being fit for purpose and being, hate to use trite words, but future ready, fit for purpose, not in terms of the wonderful things you did in the past, but how you can leverage that to do even more wonderful things in the future. So it requires being a great listener, taking a multi-stakeholder view. And that's true even as CFO, because of course at AT&T I was a business unit CFO. But everything gets magnified at the CEO level because you really are dealing with multiple stakeholders. You're not just dealing with, say, investors, you're dealing with government agencies, you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with investors, you're dealing with possible partners. And, we're all different. We're all wired differently. It's when you're in a global organization, there's obviously different cultures and norms. I still remember traveling years ago to Dubai and learning about the various customs on shaking hands and greetings and salutations. And, you need to be adaptable to all of that. Sometimes Americans tend to think they know it all and they're just going to impose their philosophies and principles and styles and cultures on others, and it just doesn't work that way. So, one thing about analytics and data science or any new kind of transformational initiative is, we call it tone at the top. And it really is important for data science, big data, data governance, for it to work. You really need to get buy-in from the top that data analytics is an important investment for the organization, whether it's people or training or new tools, new capabilities to mine your data, to explore your data, to use data to your competitive advantage. There's a book written in, I think it was 2006, by Thomas Davenport at Babson in Rhode Island, and it's called "Competing on Analytics: The New Science of Winning." When you think of winning in the marketplace, you think of apps and things you can touch and feel and do with products or services, like an app. But data science is that's what the people in the background do that we never see. Not true.
I get what
These people have to be at the forefront of the organization. They have to be recognized, rewarded, trained. And so, at IMA now, okay, granted, I'm a bit biased in favor of, the more data science, the better. But, initially when we created our first ever data analytics, data science function at IMA, as you know, because you were a board member close to 4 years ago now, I had the function reporting to me as CEO purposely. Now, this is not 10, 20, 30 people. This was starting out as 1, 2, 3, 4 people, but I purposely had the function report to the CEO. And now it reports to our CFO, who also has the title Senior Vice President, Strategy, Technology, and Data Analytics, because it needs to be housed and recognized at the C-suite level of the organization. It is that important. It's not just a bunch of numbers that a bunch of
No.
people who like numbers in the background. It's at the forefront of being fit for purpose in a fast-moving business environment.
I have to admit, because as you said, I was on the board when you've taken both decisions. And I think this is something that I speak about a lot. And, like part of the University of Cambridge, my research is on the role of CDO as well and how it is evolving. And I think this is a great example what the Institute of Management Accountants has done. And you've really led in the decision that you've taken, because when analytics was there, and again, this speaks about the adaptability. When analytics was out and it was in something at that time, it was new, people didn't know what to do with it, or where does it sit, what will happen. You were like, hold on for a second, that function is reporting to me. I'll hire someone to lead the function, and it is reporting to the CEO, which is great. And due to the size of the organization, and I say that is different because another organization, I'd say, yeah, a CDO should continue and stay on the board. But with your retirement, I think you merged a couple of functions, finance, strategy, and data and analytics. So really, it's not really a CFO anymore. That person is a strategy. As you said, it's a VP of strategy, data and analytics, including finance. And again, that role has a seat at the table. And it's very important to have, if an organization wants to get the most out of data and analytics, they need the data person, the lead, to sit when they're taking decisions in the C-suite. I think that was quite, I'd say, insightful, like foresight from you. You were able to see the future, because when you took that decision, I was quite impressed. And it wasn't the easiest, because you were very visionary there to take this decision a few years back. And it's impressive. And again, it supported the IMA a lot. So but again,
I think that, thank you, Fatema, for that. But if you think about, again, the title of that book, Competing on Analytics, I do really think that some of the most admired companies in the world who make a difference for their investors, for society, and multiple stakeholders, they do make an investment in big data and data analytics, and data science and tools and training, and keeping up with the latest software. I mean, when I think of data science, I mean, of course I think of the underbelly of it being mathematics and statistics. Again, all learnable, all trainable, so don't be nervous. I also think about computer coding. Again, you could say, well, wait a second, I'm a member of the finance team. I do finance. I don't do data analytics. I don't do visualization. I don't do regressions. And I surely don't do computer coding. Well, again, you can't copy and paste from the past and say that you're fit for purpose in the future. I believe it's a must that every, or many, if not every, finance team professional, management accountant needs to have significant domain experience in computer coding. These software packages are, again, learnable and trainable, depending upon which side of the process you're on. Again, you don't have to be a deep assembler, computer programmer, but applications programming, absolutely. We use Alteryx, but of course we've experimented with R and SAS and whether it's commercial software or off the shelf open source softwares. But the other aspect, in addition to the more technical aspects of, statistics and computer coding, is understanding the business context. So before you dive into solving a problem or answering questions, kind of grinding through the data, so to speak, understand the business context, understand the nature of the question, the problem, the opportunity that you're seeking. And the better you understand the business and how value is generated and how customers behave, you will be able to add that much more value as a strategic business partner. There's another book. I love the title of these books as much as the books themselves, but there's another one written by a famous Princeton University mathematician. I believe it was the early 90s, John Tukey, and it's called Exploratory Data Analysis, EDA. Now, this is a huge book. It really is a tough read, even for a mathematician, statistician like me. But it, just think about that exploratory data analysis. The best data scientists not only have that technical analytical capability, but they're inquisitive. They explore the data, they mine the data. So you're the boss, Fatema, and you're directing your team. I need answers to these 5 questions. You've got this huge data set. Run, go find me the answer, right? And, of course, you can grind through the data and get Fatema's answer on, tell me what the cash flow will be in 2036 from, from this new initiative we're putting in place, or tell me what the data predicts, right? Yeah, I could go answer that question, but I also need to be inquisitive and explore the data, maybe answer some questions that Fatema didn't ask, that I unleash and unveil from the underbelly of all this detailed transactional data that I've now correlated together and made a story. At AT&T, we use data mining to unearth, if you will, unforeseen sales opportunities. We were able to actually use data mining to get underneath very, very detailed data sets to offer management, the board, management, product teams, new sales leads, because we were getting our what's kicked in the marketplace by MCI WorldCom. And so we use data analytics, data science to true competitive advantage. But it takes competence, it takes capability. We need to build this into our curricula, as I said.
It does. It's because it feeds. I think it's building into the curriculum and feeding those like skill set actually in the profession. But I love how you mentioned about how analytics, it really kind of, we're not doing data for data's sake or analytics for analytics sake. We're doing data and analytics for business sake.
Right.
And I think which is brilliant. You said it's all about what the business wants and speaking to the business, because a lot of people I've seen working in analytics, sometimes they're like, oh, but we're going to do and fix this and do that. And they need this visualization. Let's get on with it. Or this AI model. And like, what questions? Have you listened to the question properly? And I know one of the things that I used to do with, like, I've worked obviously across in Unilever, Jaguar Land Rover, and HP. One of the things we used to do is always like asking, I always used to do like problem structuring session with my stakeholders. I would say, like, lock them all in a room and let's just stay in a room and get an answer. What is really the business pain points?
Right.
How can we, what are we doing? And as you said, a data science person, you can ask them to do something and then they come across in the data. Like when I used to even do coding, I'd come across something and I'd be like, oh, wow, okay, that piece of information might be relevant. And still my team comes to me and is like, you know what, have you seen that? Is this a problem? And I'd be like, oh, yes, it's a problem. Thank you. And I'll take it. And, and I think those are the things that the business and one of the things you mentioned is the word adaptability. You've mentioned that a lot in our conversation today. And I think this adaptability and maybe also being comfortable with the unknown because you don't know what is happening when you mine the data, when you look at the data,
Absolutely.
and then adapt to the numbers and coordinate with the business. I feel like we're really lucky to be living in this time where, everything is changing that fast.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And, with respect to change and the rapid pace of change, Fatima, whether it's where we work, how we work, which has forever been changed by COVID, the fast pace of technology, what's next? I mean, it's interesting. We're all talking about, artificial intelligence and chat GPT and things like that. And, we have to make sure that technology doesn't surpass our ability to consume it and apply it for positive reasons. All the new software that we're playing around with, the AI software, the, chat GPT, for example, and I've heard about, students beginning to use it for purposes of, copying and pasting, papers. Certainly cyber criminals are beginning to think about how to use it. So the other role of a professional accountant business is commitment to ethics and integrity and controls and things like that. And so, but we've got to be better prepared for a fast changing society. And the other word, I mean, I know the big A words are what? Agile and adaptive and analytical, right? So we've got
oh, of course.
agile, which is a good word, but it's more in response. So when people say, "Oh, you're agile," you're able to be resilient and deal reactively to a situation, which is a good thing to have. Analytics, of course, we know the importance of analytics, or at least we think we do, right? And we're big proponents and ambassadors. Adaptive, we've talked about that in terms of being fit for purpose. But the other A word is anticipatory. And that just triggered me when you said fast changing world. The more we could prepare our organization for the changes ahead and be anticipatory, and you could translate this into scenario planning and different analytical forecasts of different futures that could play out in the world, and saying to management or the board of directors or investors, saying, hey, we see a world in which education is point and click, get what you need, pay for what you want, subscription services, real time, gig type of training and education. And we're not prepared for that world from a technological or even a culture perspective. Well, being anticipatory is helping to prepare the organization for different futures, and being nimble enough to pivot perhaps to different futures as the world plays out. So the other A word there that I just thought of is using statistical modeling, data science to be anticipatory. Maybe we built now for a future that is 20 years away, but we've started to build now.
Anticipatory. Yes, I love that word. I think this definitely needs to be added to the to those words. And as you said, we're building for the future. Uh, Jeff, I'm enjoying the conversation, but I'm aware that it's you also have some time limits in. But I can't wrap up this conversation without asking you, what are your plans? Because I know that you're speaking about being a strategic advisor, and I just, after retirement, which is quite a big thing. So congratulations on that. And I know you celebrated that on the plane, which is brilliant. It's very different. It's very unique, Jeff. But yeah, so people can contact you as a strategic advisor. So maybe tell us a bit more. And also, what's your plan? Where are you, like, traveling or?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, it's interesting. After I got my master's in surprise, surprise, mathematics and statistics, and then of course ultimately became a certified management accountant. It's been over 40 years that I've been, in different positions, different career paths, all of them one more exciting than the other, always an opportunity to learn and grow. I didn't anticipate, although I did want to become a CFO once I chose sort of finance and accounting as a way to apply my math and statistics. I never anticipated nor actively sought a CEO position. It just kind of happened. Right place, right time, right skill sets, things like that. So now I'm not really wired to golf all day or watch TV all day or sleep in all day. Maybe in the future, but I do plan to. I've got a very diverse family, as you know. We adopted two boys as teenagers, dealing with different situations at the time. One from Uruguay, one from Ecuador, and then a girl as well that we adopted as a teenager. So, and then they have kids, and never ends. So there's always family things that I'd like to spend a bit more time. But from a professional perspective, I'm not quite sure what strategic advisor is. I do know that I'm an experienced board member, an experienced CFO, an experienced CEO. Am a ambassador and very passionate, surprised about data science and experience in ESG and cybersecurity and ERM. So, whether it's perhaps serving on a corporate board or being a strategic advisor to a company, a startup, or any kind of company, I've actually spent more time on my LinkedIn profile than ever before. But, at the end, I think I'm in a position to pick where I could make a difference, and, take the benefit of some battle scars and, tough lessons learned, sometimes wrong choices that turned out to be the best choice, and vice versa, is all part of what learning and growing and grit, as we say in New Jersey, grit is all about. I don't quite know what that means. More tangibly, that could mean a corporate board, or it could be working with a advisory and consulting firm. I've become very well versed in ESG and sustainability. As you know, served on the COSO board for two different stints of 10 years. So I'm, internal control, risk management, ESG and sustainability are all passions of mine, because I actually think they make a difference not only for organizations, but for the world. And we also have a great profession and a great community. I get to be on sessions like this with you, great friend and inspiring part of the profession in your own right with what you've done for IMA. And so we'll see what happens. You never know.
Thank you. No, thank you. And that's definitely, so if you want a great advisor, consultant, I think Jeff is brilliant in the areas of ESG, finance, and I think he's just like in so many areas, to be honest, data science, analytics. You're quite a thought leader, and you've written so many papers, spoken so many events. You're so passionate about sharing knowledge, which is brilliant. And I've seen you like in the board meetings and so on. I've been working together for years now, and how you make sure that everyone is listened to. You listen to the challenges, you listen to the, everyone, and make sure that really everyone is on board. As I said, you were very visionary with the analytics steps that you've taken in the IMA. So after retirement, I think maybe take a few weeks. I don't think you'll be taking more than a few weeks, Jeff.
Exactly.
But I don't think so.
Actually, you're right. I literally just got back from China, and we're now, doing interviews. In fact, in 10 minutes, I'm doing an interview with IFAC, the International Federation of Accountants, on the new guidance on ESG reporting and building trust and confidence through internal control. So, I'll maybe tomorrow I'll sleep until 6 a.m. and
6 a.m. Yes. Okay. With that, I think I'll just wrap so that I could give you some time. And I know it's like, yeah, it's, to be honest, the conversation was so interesting. Normally it's half an hour, but we've been going on for an hour now.
Yeah,
Really enjoyed it.
yeah,
And maybe, yeah, we can have another session in
absolutely,
few, I don't know, when you're, yeah, to listen even to what you're doing, even after retirement afterwards.
absolutely.
But I just wanted to thank you very much, Jeff, for sharing really the knowledge. You're a thought leader. You share your knowledge. You share, your thoughts and support. As I said, you were great support throughout my career. We've worked together, and before even like once I after uni and afterwards, and um, you're very supportive, and I'm looking forward to see what you're going to do afterwards, because what you've done with the IMA is brilliant. So thank you again for being here.
Thanks,
I want to thank
Fatema.
all. Oh, thank you.
I look forward to the
I
next
want.
time we do this.
Sorry.
I said I'm looking forward to the next time we do this,
Yes.
and we can talk even more specifically about the value of data analytics in the new world, right? The world of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, right? VUCA, right? It's called VUCA, the VUCA world, right? And I think there's so many incredible opportunities. And thank you for all you've done for the profession and for IMA as a senior volunteer and board member.
Thank you very much. And I think we have a session, and we have a name for the session even now. So see, that happens when we sit together,
Yeah,
Jeff.
that's right.
So thank you again, and thanks
Okay,
to
Fatema.
everyone. The session would be on YouTube, on LinkedIn again, and on the podcast. And feel free to share your in the chats even after we end the stream. We'll make sure to answer the questions to Jeff and I. Thank you again, and thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
See you,
you.
Fatema.
Bye.